Hello everyone. Today our discussion is about crucial role corporate sector plays in tackling climate change and promoting sustainability. As we all know, climate change is one of the greatest challenges of our time, and businesses have unique opportunity to drive positive environmental impact through sustainable efforts. Today we are joined by Kasun Yatawara, Head of Market Management at Allianz Insurance Lanka, a company leading in the way of this space. Our goal today is not only to explore best practices and challenges corporations face in promoting sustainability, but also to inspire actions and empower communities to work together towards a more sustainable future. To begin with, let's explore the role of business play in addressing climate change. So, how would you define the role of the corporate sector in addressing climate change and promoting sustainability?
Can I answer?
Yeah.
All right, so thank you, Sanidhi. I think that's a very timely question given the day and age. I'd like to take this topic as two different, I would say break it down as two separate subtopics, one about climate change and the other about sustainability. Sustainability, I would say, is the overarching element there, and climate change becomes a very big part by default. Overall, if you talk about how corporates should promote sustainability, I think it's something that needs to be ingrained in our DNA in any corporate. Forget corporate, it's something that is within us, that we see happening around us, which all of us as individuals need to really start thinking about as well. We only have one home, and that's planet Earth, and we need to protect where we are. We need to make sure that we keep it for future generations. So overall, from a sustainable point of view, I think corporates play a crucial role as the driving force in most economies around the world, and Sri Lanka being one, right? And when you also look at the workforce as well as the livelihoods that it contributes to, why not corporates is the question that I would ask, right? And it's pretty much an obvious question, an obvious answer rather. From a climate change perspective, if you really look at climate change, it's not just climate change, it impacts everything. It will impact our houses, it will impact the way we work, the way we live, the biodiversity, everything. So that is a big topic that us as an organization at Allianz also drive globally, as well as whatever efforts that we can do to promote it locally. So since climate change is such a big area in the span of or in the scope of sustainability, I think that needs special attention as well.
Yeah. So our next question would be, what unique advantages do corporations have in driving climate actions compared to other sectors?
See, it's accountability. I don't think there's a unique advantage that corporates have compared to any other sectors in the economy, be it government, whatnot. I think all stakeholders in this society need to play an equal part in driving the agenda towards climate change objectives, right? Corporates, however, have a bit more funding if you're doing well, but other than that, I mean, those are also for particular objectives. So it's not like you have a white canvas where you can draw anything. Everything's tied down to numbers when it comes to corporates, and certain corporates are also responsible for its customers as well in terms of the financials that they have. So it's never an easy game, but it's a mandatory thing or mandatory agenda that we need to drive. In simple, I wouldn't say there is no unique advantage for corporates, but corporates driving this agenda will result in a unique advantage or a unique outcome for the society, because simply this is the place where we spend the most amount of our time when we are awake at work, right? So if that can be ingrained to the employees of the corporates, that then cascades down into their families, into the people that they know, thereby building bigger topics, bigger dialogues around this. And it's small practices that can contribute in large ways. Yes, there are some externally large projects that we might have to run as economies, as countries, etc. But then the small practices also contribute to sustainability and any other topic around sustainability in a very large way by snowball effect, right? So I would say corporates don't have a very unique advantage, but corporates getting involved in it will result in a great outcome.
Now, if you are talking about sustainability practices, what companies are actually doing? What are some of the best sustainability practices Allianz has implemented to reduce environmental impact?
Okay, so Allianz is a group. We're a very large organization when it comes to the global agenda. We take sustainability very, very seriously. It's a leading part of our agenda. And Oliver Bete, who is our group CEO, is very, very involved in driving this across the entire organization. Overall, Allianz, I believe, has committed to be net zero in terms of its insurance as well as its investment assets by 2030. That's one big area that we're focusing on. And then it's also, I think, planning to drive its emissions down by about 65% in the coming years, if I'm not mistaken, by 2030 again. So those are two areas that I would say that we are heavily invested in, and each country that's within the span of Allianz, over 70 OEs for that matter, are driving these objectives across.
So like any sector, I believe sustainability effect don't just come without challenges. So what would you say are the biggest obstacles company face when trying to adopt more sustainable practices?
You'll have strategic level inhibitors as well as operational inhibitors. And I think driving sustainability is for the greater good long term, and it always has some sort of cost. I mean, there is nothing that's cost free, everything has a cost attached to it. So number one is overall, from a financial perspective, sometimes driving sustainability also means that you have to do the right thing and maybe not the most profitable thing. There can be, I would say, an exchange between the two, but also I think organizations nowadays, especially modern organizations such as Allianz, have figured out that one cannot also exist without the other when you look at the long term. The consumers are being more, I would say, aware of organizations. They reciprocate the same thing. They want to be a part of, they want to engage with organizations who take responsibility. So I think it goes parallelly as well. And overall, when you take operational, I'll give you an example. So we also had this mandate coming in for us, for our vehicle fleet that we own at Allianz, to be fully electric by 2030. And some of the challenges would be in a market like Sri Lanka, with the infrastructure that we have at the moment to support electric vehicles, sometimes running that, such as a propaganda ban across the country 365 days a year, might become a challenge. So those are things that we discuss, we address, we see what we can do. But there are operational challenges as well, and that's just a tip of the iceberg. There are lots of other operational challenges, but just to keep it short, you'll have the bigger challenges which need to be looked at from a more strategic perspective, and then you'll also have your operational challenges. For a service industry, it's relatively less, I would say, but for a product-oriented or FMCG industry, the operational challenges can be even more.
Okay. What kind of support do you think it's needed from government or NGO to help overcome these barriers?
A lot of support. See, I think the government can really support through policy creation, and the policy needs to be established at the government level. And I think it's time that governments also start taking as equal responsibility as corporates to drive sustainability. And when you do that, even the small and medium-sized enterprises are somewhat, taken under that umbrella, and they also have to abide by it. See, there is no point having a net zero effect by the large corporates practicing sustainability and all the small and medium-sized companies not practicing that. And let's say one party puts out waste while the other party does not. Ultimately, you will not really have a positive outcome. It will be a zero outcome. So I think government's role is to set policy and to monitor that, and to maybe have laws surrounding it, by also considering the practical nature of it. There will be certain countries who can drive it much faster than countries like Sri Lanka, especially when you look at the dissection of our economic income levels, etc., of the organizations as well. And pretty much that. But for a country that is more advanced, who has a higher GDP per capita, who has got more infrastructure on their lineup, they would be able to adopt it faster than us. It's never a question of whether we should adopt it or not. Definitely should. But the rate of adoption can be faster in more developed countries, in my personal view, than in the developing countries, because there are teething issues that need to be sorted while we get them. It shouldn't be forgotten, never, but sometimes you have prioritization that you do.
So now if we talk about stakeholder engagement, sustainability is just a... Okay, sorry, let it go. Okay. So now if we talk about stakeholder engagement, sustainability isn't just about internal actions. It involves everyone. How important it is to engage employees, customers, communities in your sustainable efforts?
Very, very important. And when you talk about employees, it's also an extension of your corporate, right? And I think creating ownership is what's going to take your sustainable efforts into their homes, number one. And then when you take customers, I think you can't force customers to become sustainable. It's a gradual process. It's about creating awareness and educating them on the importance, and you taking that stance first, even if no one does it. It's important that you do it first. So while we cannot control our customers as stakeholders, if the organization is doing right, I think in this day and age, people are very educated, and it's a global village. Everyone gets to know what's happening around the world, how the ice caps are melting, the impact it has on biodiversity, the flash floods that people face, the challenges that we face because we haven't been sustainable so far. And I think there is a big wave of people who start appreciating these efforts and who give a special place to organizations who do that as well. So I think stakeholder engagement is very important. There are some stakeholders who will tag along with you in the journey, such as employees. There will be certain other stakeholders who will come into the picture late, or even customers. It depends on the segmentation as well, I would say, right? You'd have your early adopters and your laggards, right? And then in terms of your other stakeholders such as government, NGOs, regulators, I think if the government can get involved and set a framework for policy, I think everyone will to follow it. So engagement, as with any other topic, is really important.
So what strategies have you found most effective in getting this stakeholder involvement in your climate actions?
All right, so in terms of strategies that has worked for Allianz, I can comment on Allianz. I think getting employee buy-in has been the most successful because the tone has been set from the top. We have a lot of monitoring that's going on, and we are also humbly proud of the fact that we work for an organization that values sustainability to such an extent. And thereby, even in our CSR agenda, we have really focused on aspects such as renewable energy to promote it within Sri Lanka, which again becomes a part and parcel of this huge umbrella, huge ecosystem of sustainability. So I think that's been the most successful, and because of that, there is awareness that's created, that we create very proactively as well on these. So those are the things that have been very successful to us, and we see the employees also reciprocate that in their actions as well. So having an aware and educated set of employees is a big contribution that you give back to the society, and I believe that has really helped us. And also making bold statements with big aspirations set out there to be the leader, which also convinces others to follow, I think has also really helped Allianz.
Okay, so now if we talk about innovations, how can technology and innovation support corporate sustainability?
In a big way. Starting from virtual meetings that would reduce carbon emissions, and I think from a Sri Lankan perspective, air travel is very limited. But if you take the bigger countries which need air travel within cities, just having virtual meetings when you can rather than having to fly saves a lot of emissions, right? So those are small things, but overall when it comes to innovation and technological improvement, creating access through innovation to a broader segment of the population at affordable prices for sustainable solutions, I think is the biggest winner. We live in a world where there is a lot of poverty, there is a lot of, you get by very difficult, right? But if you can create solutions that the masses can adopt without having to give up some of their priorities in life, such as spending on your kids' education or food, water, basic necessities, I think that's the real winner. So that's where technology and innovation can come together to help. And also in terms of, let's say, when it comes to industries such as food and beverages or packaged food, the more you continue to invest in R&D, the more you find solutions away from things like plastic or microplastics, that would also give a lot of wins to the planet that we live in and the ecosystem that we live in. So yeah, as with anything in the industry, technology and innovation will drive this, and this is what will, in my opinion, make something that is a bit distant to the common man much closer, and that's what will bridge the gap at an exponential pace. So it's very important.
Collaboration is key when it comes to scaling sustainability efforts. How can corporations collaborate with government and NGO to drive more impactful climate action?
I believe that the experts know best, and corporates sometimes aren't the experts in terms of driving, action regarding climate change. So this is where collaboration becomes really important, because rather than building something from scratch, you'd rather use something that's already working or someone that has already had expertise in to get on the bandwagon, right? Bandwagon is probably a bad phrase to use, but then to do the right thing. And let's say even Allianz, we collaborate a lot in terms of globally as well as locally to drive these initiatives and sustainable practices that we have. And it serves, I would say, two things. One is it becomes more economically viable. Number two is you get it and you would do something that has proven to work, or that an expert has told you that it would work this way. So there is more validation, and there are no naysayers, or there is little doubt that people could cast upon what you're doing when you have that expertise being brought in. So in that regard, I think collaboration is very important, and especially I think a government's role. You'll have a lot of NGOs that you can collaborate with, and even governments. And if the governments can promote this dialogue and agenda and the whole ecosystem with NGOs who corporates can partner up, and maybe also look at giving them some sort of benefit for that, for the greater good, that model is definitely bound to be successful.
Long-term commitment is crucial for sustainability. Why do you think it's so important for companies to stay committed to sustainability in the long run?
Number one, it's the right thing to do. Number two, you have concepts like greenwashing and whatnot, which it shouldn't be a trend, right? We know it's the right thing to do, and if we don't do it every day, each day we wake up, no one's going to be looking after this planet that we live in. So it's a simple and an obvious answer saying it's the right thing to do. But also from a customer perspective, for people to start believing in your organization for doing the right thing and standing in the right place, commitment and a long-term approach is what's definitely needed. And some of these agendas that you drive towards sustainability are not overnight wins. Through education, through technological advancements, and through change, sometimes it takes a bit of time for you to see the results. And I think it's important that you stay in the game till you realize that and continue.
What steps should companies take to ensure sustainability, not just a short-term goal, but core part of their strategy?
Build it into their key strategy. Build it into their visions and missions. I think that's important. And making sure that every year when you look at your short-term game plan as well, that there is a component of it that holds the top level of the organization accountable for delivering that. So that happens through KPIs, that's operationalized through KPIs, and practicing that year on year automatically builds a long-term commitment to sustainability.
Looking ahead, what emerging trends do you see in corporate sustainability and climate action?
I think a few. Renewable energy, although it's an age-old topic, I think it's still relevant. And then circular economy, the concept of circular economy is also something that people are talking about a lot, a very regenerative approach. And then lastly, I would say something that's closer to me would be artificial intelligence and the use of artificial intelligence to assess better and take better action and to simplify tasks that would usually take a long time from a sustainable perspective, and finding solutions, finding sustainable solutions through AI, I think will take center stage in the coming future.
For companies looking to enhance their contribution to climate action, what advice would you offer?
Take a long-term approach. Do not be greedy for money in the short term. We're all in this together. We all need to create this safe space for us to live in. Make sure that you build in the relevant measurement tools as well as the objectives within your strategy, that is KPIs, for the right people. Create ownership and don't be afraid to put up reasonably bold statements that we can achieve collectively. People will respect that, and you will see that the likability towards your brand increases. This is something that we're talking through experience as well. We are the world's #1 insurance brand, and that's been there for the last 6 years according to Interbrands, and our commitment to sustainability is very, very high. So I think there is a part to play in that particular aspect as well, from a sustainable perspective as well, and the amount of focus that we have. So don't be afraid, build the right measurement points and hold people accountable and make that a part of the strategy.
Thank you, Kasun, for sharing these valuable insights.
Thank you for having me.
So it's actually inspiring to hear how business can lead the way of sustainability and drive meaningful change. Your words serve as a great example for the companies and communities looking to make positive impact for the environment. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.